Before we get started on today's stitch challenge, I want to make sure y'all are aware of the new promo that DMC is offering today for the tool kits and the skein kits. We will be offering free next day shipping or 15% off of your purchase. So if you're needing your tools right away and you're wanting to get started so you don't miss out, you can grab that and get next day shipping. But if you're willing to wait a little bit, when I say a little bit, just a few more days, you should be able to get the 15% off. So head over there and get your stuff so that way we can get stitched together. Yesterday in my video, I started a process for how I knot my thread and forgot completely to finish that up. So today, when I'm done showing you guys these two stitches, I will then go in and show you guys how I knot my thread and finish it to move on to the next piece of thread. Now we're going to be moving on to our stitch challenge for the day. Today, we're going to be doing the stem stitch, and that will be the stems for the bottom of the flowers here at the bottom of the pattern. I will be showing you two different ways to do the stem stitch. One way that will kind of give you this stacked look to your stems, and another way that will give you more of a solid line. That way, depending on what kind of look you're wanting to get, you'll have two choices to do that. The thread we will be using for today will be DMC's 6-stranded cotton floss. I'll be using color 3052, but you can use any type of color that works for you. Any type of lighter green would work. Something to kind of contrast with the grass here at the bottom. Cut your thread, thread your needle, and then I'll be showing you the first stem stitch technique. Now, usually with stitching, you keep your hoop vertical, so that way you can look directly at the pattern. But with stem stitch, I personally like to take my hoop and rotate it, depending if I'm right-handed or if I'm left-handed. I like to rotate it, so that way when I'm stitching, I can stitch from left to right. Obviously, if you're left-handed, be right to left. And what I do is I go to the bottom of the line here. That's right between those two things of grass right there. My thread through, making sure to grab my tail back here. Now, the reason why I like to do it that way is because I'm able to use my thumb here to grab onto this thread. You want to make sure you anchor this because you want to make sure that when you're stitching, your thread is on the same side of the stitches that you're doing all the way down the line. So then what you're going to do is you're going to go forward, but the length of a grain of rice, I'm going to go a little smaller. Now you'll notice that when you pull, you make a little U there with your thumb. Come up between those two stitch points. Okay? And once that needle pops through the fabric, you can let go of your thumb and pull the thread through. Take your thread, bring it back down, grab it with your thumb, and go forward again. Then you'll just keep coming up between these 2 points. So you have point 1 and then point 2 here. You'll come up right between them on the line. As you're going, if you're stitches look a little loose, that's okay. You can keep that look if you want, or if you want them to be a little tighter, what you can do is turn your hoop over, take your needle, and kind of pull these stitches up. Kind of tighten those stitches up a little bit. Ow! Frick, I stabbed myself again. Owie. That is the first stem stitch technique that you can do to give it a more of a stacked look with your stitches. Now on to technique 2. Start this like you would first technique. Come up the first time through the center of the 2 points. Next stitches following, don't come up between the 2 points. The last stitch you did, come up through there instead. You will know that you're doing it differently than the first time because the first time will look more like a running stitch and the second time will look more like a back stitch. This just basically makes the stitches lay closer together, makes it look more like a solid line versus that stacked look. Now that I've done teaching you guys the 2 stem stitch techniques, I want to finish up what I started yesterday but didn't finish in yesterday's video on how to finish up your tails to knot your thread behind your fabric. Take your thread and split the thread lengths. So you have 2 pieces here. Tie them together a few times. Then what you do is you take your scissors and you just trim it right there to the knot. And that is how you finish up your knots. Tomorrow we'll be doing the whipped back stitch. Don't forget that you can head on over to DMC's website and get the Gulush skein kit and the Gulush tool kit with either 15% off with the code GULAXDMC or get next day free shipping. That way you can get your supplies as soon as possible, get your stuff prepared, and then get stitchy with me tomorrow.